We honestly should be live. We might be live in a second. We'll see. I'm just going to double check on the phone that we're live. Oh, okay. Honestly, should be live. Okay, audio looks good too. We might be live in a second. There we go. Okay. We are live. And I'm going to have my phone out. Actually, I can kind of read the chat from the laptop there. I'm in my living room this time. I didn't drag the couch into the other room. So, there we go. I think I can read. My eyes are still pretty dang good, so I can read off the laptop across the way. Let's see. What to talk about today? I've had an interesting past couple of days, and figured, you know what? A little bit of therapy time on the couch, a little bit of live streaming to kind of decompress. Not that I've had the craziest of weeks, but definitely, I don't know, just going through some stress, I guess. I don't know, and felt the need to decompress with a live stream. And yeah, I'll get to some questions or whatever in a minute, but I was just kind of thinking about this earlier today. I was trying to get this latest project that I'm working on underway, really starting to dive into the script of this one, and I've just been having a hard time with really trying to, really dive into this next topic that I've been working on. I found myself doing like a number of like procrastination techniques to like not get it going. Maybe it's partly because I'm leaving on my next chasing trip in a couple of days, but I still wanted to get like a little bit of headway done before leaving. And I don't know, it's just sometimes it's hard doing this sometimes. And I mean, maybe that's just a privileged thing to say or first world problem type of thing to say, but I don't know. Sometimes the grind of doing like content creation and stuff like that, it's both very isolating and stress inducing in its own sort of weird way. And I don't know. Maybe I'll talk about it a little bit more, but figured, do a live stream, just kind of decompress a little bit, and kind of get into it a little bit. Let's talk some tornadoes. I wasn't out chasing at all the past couple of weeks. Maybe that's part of it. I was unable to head out west for this last little stretch, but like I said, I'm heading back out a bit, even though the overall pattern during our stretch might be not the most favorable. We might have a couple of good mesoscale days, and but we might get a little bit of a ridge setting in towards the middle, but then maybe some northern plains action towards the end of our trip. That's kind of the general gist of what it looks like right now. But wasn't able to chase recently, which is kind of unfortunate. It stinks being on the sidelines. And I guess, something I guess I could talk about a little bit before I start talking, getting into any questions or anything in the chat is just, it's interesting to, like, how do I put this? Like, I'm not a full-time storm chaser, but I like having the ability to chase when I can. But at the end of the day, even, dating back to last year and years prior when I had full-time work commitments to take care of versus now where, I'm doing the June 1st stuff full-time, but there's still other aspects of my life that take precedent over storm chasing. And, having like family commitments and stuff like that I still value and are definitely more important than chasing. Yes, it stinks to miss out on events, especially when it looks like I saw what was coming up and I was like, dang, it's going to really stink not being able to get out there. But at the same time, too, it's like there's more to life than storm chasing and, career ambitions or whatever. Like I said, I'm not a full-time chaser, but you still get that sense of FOMO, fear of missing out, I guess, when you're on the sidelines. And I live on the East Coast. It's not easy for me to get out to the plains for, a day or two at a time. It takes me 2 days just to get out there and chase. I mean, I could fly and rent a car, but I like having the familiarity of my own car, and, kind of being a hotel on wheels, if you will. But it's tough to be on the sidelines. And yeah, sure, it's easy to say, well, why don't you just like move out west? Sure, I'd like to move out west, but there are aspects in my life that are here. And I'm not speaking only for myself. I'm in a committed relationship, and her life is tied here too. And wouldn't be right of me to ask her to uproot her life when she's not ready to move. We've talked about moving to like Colorado at some point in time down the road, which would obviously be, it's an area that I would love to live, and have much easier ability to storm chase from there. But that's just not in my cards right now. And, it's just, it's interesting. I think about, being able to have a little bit more flexibility sometimes in the chasing, in being able to chase. And it's not fun being stuck to the sidelines sometimes, and, taking care of commitments that ultimately do come first in life. I know there are monikers like, never stop chasing. And there's plenty of people that, dedicate a good chunk of their life to storm chasing. And it's hard to remind myself sometimes that storms aren't everything. And then there are more important things in life. So just something kind of I wanted to talk about a little bit, since it can go, it can kind of, we kind of get lost in the sauce, if you will, especially if, you're following a bunch of storm chasers and stuff. And a lot of my friends, they've dedicated a good portion of their life to being able to chase freely. And that comes at the sacrifice of other aspects of your life. And I guess in my personal instance, those are aspects of my life that I'm not willing to give up, because I do believe there is more to life than storm chasing. And if that doesn't make me the greatest chaser, then so be it. There's more to life than that. Just kind of a couple of things that have been on my mind recently. And I've wanted to do, more chasing type content too. But, that's maybe not really where my area of, I don't want to say expertise is, but where my niche is, I guess, if you will. Yeah, so, yeah, let's, I know I haven't really looked at the chat at all. I kind of got it on my phone here, and I got, see if there's a couple of things that I'm missing out on. I guess I did mention earlier, I'll be out west here soon, or I'll be back out west, leaving Saturday. Unfortunately, I would like to leave a little bit earlier. I would love to catch that Saturday looks really good, very boom or bust type of scenario unfolding. Kind of currently it looks like it'll be kind of that southern Kansas to into northern Oklahoma vicinity at the moment, potentially into northeastern Colorado as well. There could be another kind of Palmer divide setup, but it's very kind of a boom or bust conditional type setup, and then a number of should be able to chase Sunday, should be able to chase Monday. But after that, it looks like there might be some issues in terms of, kind of getting some ridging, getting into the mix of things, but maybe some Northern Plains activation after that. So, yeah, I'm going to start taking a couple questions here. That's a little bit of enough of me ranting. I can kind of read a couple of them off the laptop there, but Nate in the chat, rate your comfort level. Comfort level is a good 8 out of 10. This is like a couch that probably I could have much nicer. Well, This is the first apartment that both my girlfriend and I um, have furnished fully ourselves. So this is literally just an Amazon couch. But for the price, it's actually pretty comfortable. And uh, Meathead72 asks, "What's your favorite class in high school?" I liked physics. I was a big fan of physics. I mean, I guess that maybe that makes sense. I also liked history. I'm a big I'm a little bit of a history buff on the side, so like American history particularly. Um, in military history particularly as well. Um, Malcolm, even though I don't have the ability to get out west to chase, I get that feeling of FOMO that ended up having an impact on my classes. Yeah, it happens. You want to be out there, you want to be able to experience these things, and I'm blessed to have the ability to see storms. I'm blessed to have the ability to go storm chasing, and to have a little bit of flexibility with it as well. But I recognize that it's not accessible to everyone for a period of time, especially when I was early in my college days and in high school when I lived here in the Northeast. I didn't have the funds to head out west. I was a high school kid. I was a college kid. I was already taking out student loans as it was. It's not like I had the disposable income to head out west. Um, and now with June 1st, it's like I can kind of, there's aspects of it that I can expense at least, but it's not it's not for it's not accessible to everyone. So um, yeah, Carly doesn't storm chase, and you and her put out amazing tornado content. Um, you analyzing tornado damage, some of my favorite. Um, I stopped storm chasing years ago, but still keep up with it all. I mean, I still like. I don't get me wrong. Like, I'll chase when I can. I guess what I was just trying to get at is just that it's hard to balance that FOMO of that fear of missing out when you could have the ability to be out there. But at the same time, too, there's aspects of your life that do take precedent. Different like functions. Like I had in mid June, for example, I have a wedding that I have to go to in this past week. I was hosting a birthday party here, and so like doing that type of thing takes precedent. So there's just other aspects in life that take precedent sometimes. I just realized I'm a little laggy. Hopefully it's not too bad. What radar color profiles would you recommend? Honestly, I'm going to be completely honest. I think I don't use anything crazy specific. I don't know. I think I changed it to something on my Gibson Ridge or my Gibson Ridge platform. I don't know what it's called though. It's not Oh, Tim in the chat, familiar face. I'm liking what I'm seeing for the Northern Plains for mid-June. Well, that's are you going to be out there mid to late June? I have to be back for mid-June. I have a wedding to go to in mid-June, but I might be out late June. If it looks really favorable in late June, then I'll be back out probably one more time to cap off the season. But I'll be out from this Saturday. Well, I'm leaving this Saturday, and I'll be out through like June 7th or so, whatever that weekend is. So I'll be there for the end of May through the beginning of June, for sure. Jeff the Land Shark. Oh wait, Ethan, what's your opinion of the F-104? I don't know if I have a strong opinion. Start getting into like aircraft discussions. What's your go-to weather app for chasing? I personally use WeatherWise to follow along with Ryan Hall stream when warnings go out. I'm still using Radar Scope, but I think I'm gonna start testing out Weatherfront moving forward, just because it has a lot of fun. And I use SatSquatch as well. Those are the two subscriptions that I pay for chasing apps, I guess. But it seems like I might switch over to Weatherfront soon because it has the functionality of Radar Scope and SatSquatch in one app. So why pay for two subscriptions if I can pay for one? So yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure what is up with my bit rate right now. uh it's not it's not like, I hope it's not too distracting. Um the official ratings of all the tornadoes from the Greenburst Supercell have been rated EF3. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. There's nothing out. I'm catching up a bit, sorry. Forecasting question. What's the main importance of upper level winds? I get speed shear and convergence, but what do you weigh more is more important? Um, I kind of look. I guess it depends on the setup at large. It's hard to like look at it completely isolated because obviously the surrounding context is important. I would say with weaker flow, definitely if you're like looking for a little bit of a disturbance and a little bit of divergence, if possible, you know, if you're going 500 millibars and above, like kind of like that 300 millibar layer, you know, I'm looking for either, you know, some subtle shortwave action or a little bit of divergence aloft. Those types of things I look for. And then obviously with like kind of the more synoptically obvious outbreak stuff, I'm kind of looking more at like jet streak translation and kind of exit region, like where your instability is lining up with your exit regions. Obviously, like your right front quadrant's kind of important to watch. So that's kind of like what I'm looking for. It's all kind of dependent on um, it's kind of dependent on the greater context surrounding everything. Do you play any instruments? Yes, I play guitar, drums. I used to play trombone and like brass instruments too. It's been a little bit since I've picked up those, but like guitar, drums, bass, like kind of like the more standard rock instruments. I'm a bit klutzy on piano. Like I can play like basic songs like Hey Jude and stuff like that. Kind of like more chord style songs. But you know, I'm not like a trained pianist by any stretch of the imagination. Um, What is your thoughts on the London, Kentucky EF4 that killed over 18 people? I don't know if I have. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I have opinions on strong, violent killer tornadoes. I'm not a very if you come to know me personally, I'm not a very strongly opinionated person. I kind of like I like looking at the different aspects that people will see things at and kind of, you know, I can see a lot of different sides of things. Like when it comes to like rating arguments, for example, as much as I, you know, don't have the biggest, I'm not the biggest fan of rating arguments. I think that's kind of narrow sighted a lot of the time, focusing on ratings, and it kind of, you know, takes away from the bigger picture. I'm not saying that they're not important, but I think it just kind of can pull attention away from the greater narratives that are sometimes surrounding tornadoes. So yeah, I would say that I don't know if I have a strong opinion. I see we got Will from Tornado TRX. What's up, dude? Commenting on my feet. There you go. We'll screenshot that if you want. They are in socks. So yeah. F104 equals lawn dart. um Oh, Will said I tried using WX Weatherfront for this recent stretch of tracing, and there's something that felt off about it. The feeling that I get from everything other than radar scope. Oh, you get the same feeling from everything. Yeah, I think it's just like if you've kind of grown up on radar scope, it's like hard to kind of, you know, leave that familiarity almost. I would say though, Weatherfront is probably the app that's like I've gone closest to like considering a switching. Um, I've never like the other weather app like competitors to Radarscope. I've never even remotely considered switching to. I would download them for like a hot second just to see what was up, and then I deleted them not long after. Ooh, Emily asked, kind of niche. Got a favorite ecoregion or biome? That's a fun question. Ooh. I don't know. I'm not super versed in like the technical names of biomes and stuff like that. I mean, I'm pretty particular to like northern Appalachia, like up through like Vermont, the Green Mountains, the White Mountains in New Hampshire. Like I love like kind of like the rolling hills of, or the rolling mountains, I should say, of northern Appalachia. I love coastal Maine, but I also love like Colorado, kind of front range of the Rockies and stuff like that into the Rockies. The hiking out there is obviously incredible through the 14ers. So I get definitely more of a mountain guy. And I got to go to Montana in 2023, and I loved Montana. Glacier National Park was the most like beautiful place I'd ever seen. Um, so I guess I'm more of a mountainous type guy. I wish I knew the technical names of like those air like the technical names of like those biomes. Um, so I guess not really like mountain arid. I don't know. I like I would say that I think I need some form of mountain in my life. That's definitely for sure, and that's why I think um whenever my girlfriend and I do decide to move out west, I think we're going to we're probably it'll probably be in kind of the Denver metro, Colorado region. It wouldn't be like OKC or anything like that. And plus we have ties to Colorado with family and friends and stuff like that. So um oh, I must be behind a little bit because like I'm seeing divergence versus or diffluence. Um Once again, it depends, I guess, because if you have subtle flow, if you have a little bit of, I don't know, just subtle divergence aloft, like that kind of spreading of isobars will give you that natural lift. Um, why are you on the couch again? Oh, wait, there's another question here that I saw. What's your forecasting cheat code, or generally, is there anything that you tend to look for when you're going through a setup? Once again, it kind of depends on the kind of the greater synoptics, and depends like if we're looking at like a full blown like kind of like classic outbreak setup, or if we're looking more at like a more mesoscale type day. Like if, for example, like when I was chasing in Texas back in late April, it was basically like just looking for boundaries. It was basically, okay, where's the dry line and where's the outflow boundary going to be? And it was basically at the intersection of those that it was like kind of like go here stupid type of thing and try not to overthink everything else. Whereas like more like outbreak days, I'm looking more at like exit region and stuff like that. But then there's also things like like the big tornado cheat code is like surface vorticity and 3 cape, like those types of things like can are kind of like your tornado bullseyes, if you will, as long as the surrounding context around them um with like the other parameter spaces make, or the other atmospheric features make sense. So like where your jet streak is going to be, like where in the exit region it's going to set up, like those types of things, if everything kind of aligns accordingly, um then that makes sense. Oh, I just realized there was a super chat that came in. Thank you very much for the super chat. Um, some random YouTuber asks, are you I'm assuming planning on making damage analysis on some of the more recent tornado events we've had this year? Yes. They'll just come later in the year probably. I like to. I've said this before, but I made the rolling fork damage analysis to like within a couple of weeks, like 2 or 3 weeks after the rolling fork had happened, and I wish I waited until a lot of the stuff was finalized and a lot more information became available. And plus, I don't want to like come off as like capitalizing on the event for like views and stuff, if that makes sense. Like there'll always be an interest in that event, so I like to give a little bit of space to you'll allow for more information to come out and give a little bit of time of healing and stuff like that for people that were affected. Because even if there were no fatalities, there were still like properties hit and stuff like that. So I'd rather kind of get away, let the event kind of get a bit away before I really dive into kind of some of those topics. So. I'm catching up on some of the chats. I realize like there's a lot of I'm reading, catching up on things. Yeah, hold on. Let me see if I can change some of this bitrate stuff because this is going off of like I can see it even in my preview on OBS here. So I'm wondering if I don't think it's my webcam utility, or it could be. Actually, no, it's pretty smooth on OBS. So maybe I have a bitrate issue. I don't want to... Uh-oh. Did I lose the stream? Oh, no, we're still good, right? Oh, my bitrate options are locked while streaming. Okay. Yeah, maybe this is just because I'm doing this off my laptop instead. Anyway. I'm trying to... catch up on a couple of things. A lot of great comments. I'm like, it's hard to like get to all of them. I'm just reading up, catching. Nice to see familiar people in the chat. Again, all right, I'm back at the bottom, or the most recent messages coming in. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, Reed getting hit yesterday. There's a lot of talk about that. I thought I sat down for a little bit this morning and like started like doing a little bit of couple doodles and stuff on paper, like trying to start like maybe putting together like some sort of quick analysis. But there might be a little like too many factors to come up with like a reasonable answer of like what would be required. Because I think there's going to be obviously as a little like as the vortex like kind of comes over them, like there's going to be like obviously a significant like pressure drop that's going to add a lift component on the vehicle to like lose that traction a bit more. So it's like the balance of like pressure and like trying to account for like traction and weight, and like how much of a lifting force is being applied to the vehicle, and like trying to come up with like coefficients of lift and drag to try to like approximate it. Like it just kind of started getting a little too complicated. Maybe I was looking at it too late into the morning. Like I didn't do it right after I had coffee. So I don't know. Just like like I don't know if I'd want to be in that situation. I'll put it that way. But maybe I'll crunch the numbers on it too if I think about it a little bit more. The audio setup for this is possibly the most jank audio setup I have for this right now. I have the little DJI mini mic, like these little guy, and the receiver is literally just plugged into my laptop. So I guess it's no different than plugging it into a camera, but it's just kind of funny. It's like looks jank. I'm watching the meter on the thing right now. Can you read this comment so we know how much behind it is? That was like 5 messages ago. Oh, another super chat from some random YouTuber. Thank you again. Loved the Piedmont video, man. Keep up the amazing work. Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. There's like the Piedmont video. I could have gone into way more detail with the Piedmont video. Um, that one came immediately after I did the Greensburg video. I was happy with how I did the Greensburg video, but I think the Piedmont video, I tried like, given the success of that Greensburg video, I tried like, I don't know, I tried to emulate the success. I wish I kind of gave it a little bit more space, and I wish I went a little bit more into depth with some of the stuff on Piedmont. Maybe, I mean, maybe down the road it'll just want, maybe I can just approach it and do a larger documentary on it. I'm not afraid of doing that down the line, of, you know, kind of tackling some of my older videos back, I guess. I don't know. Just doing them again, but with, you know, a different angle or a different lens. I don't mind doing that. I don't know if that's kind of like sacrilege or not to like kind of revamp old video topic ideas, but hey, if there's something new to be said, or then there's something new to be said. So, um, if you look closely at the footage, you can see a small ground scouring scar left behind by that subvort Reed intercepted yesterday. Yeah, I saw some aerial footage of that, or aerial snapshots of that. I'm not sure from who, but just saw that. Rainy Saturday. What do you think was the strongest tornado of the year so far? In your opinion, it was Diaz. I don't know if it was Diaz. I don't know. I don't know if I have a strong opinion on what I think the strongest tornado of the year. I mean, it's probably Diaz is definitely up there, probably. Um, honestly, some of those the Ohio Valley tornadoes the other day had some pretty crazy gate to gates. Um, that supercell in the Nebraska Sandhills was nuts. That supercell the other day down near Greensburg was nuts. Probably responsible for some violent tornadoes. Yeah, I guess the motion on Diaz was pretty intense. You know, big, high based, pretty narrow tornado. It's those narrow, like those kind of, not like necessarily the giant wedges, but like, you know, kind of like those more more stout tornadoes that have like kind of high LCLs, kind of a high cloud base where like that vorticity is really stretched and you're kind of getting that kind of conservation of angular momentum to really whip those things up. Sorry, reading again, just catching up. Will said, I think the Hyannis wedge is probably strongest of the year. Man, if I could do that day again. Don't get me wrong, I was really happy with the tornado that I saw that day, but I stayed in Ogallala for like 15 minutes because I was kind of wavering on if I really wanted to shoot up north into the Sandhills, and then it took me a bit to kind of fully convince me to shoot north. Um, and if I didn't hesitate and I just shot north instantly, because I thought I looked at first and it looked like I thought the supercell was moving a lot faster, and I thought it was going to kind of move away from that road network, but then it kind of like um it was slower than I originally had estimated. So I don't know. If I didn't hesitate, I would have been able to see that wedge. Oh well. Drumming in my mouth. Pinhead, why is there an EF5 drought? Hmm. It's almost like there's an entire video dedicated to that on the channel. That's the most popular video to date on the channel. Um. Yeah, I wouldn't be chasing if there weren't if I had committed sooner, or I wish I had left that storm sooner, that type of thing, or I didn't waver as much. What's storm chasing without a little bit of wavering? You know, a couple of targets just far enough apart. I mean, the fact that I was able to kind of see the Kansas target was deteriorating when I did, it was kind of like the fact that I was able to get up to Hyannis from Atwood, Kansas to begin with is kind of a miracle. I kind of saw the cumulus field burn away, and it was just kind of like writing on the wall. And right as I left Atwood was when they issued the tornado watch for that day, and I was like, okay, sweet. Like that just kind of I'd already driven 15 miles at that point, so it was just kind of the confirmation I needed to really just jet north. But I wish I had sit in Ogallala for as long, because I thought there might have been a chance of something kind of initiating a little further south, like not fully in the Sandhills. The Sandhills are kind of, I have a love-hate relationship with them. Grinnell could be low end EF4, impressive tree damage and scouring. Um, yeah, like I mean, I from an intensity standpoint, yeah, it probably could have warranted an EF4. But just like if we're looking at kind of the scale itself and like how tornadoes are rated nowadays, uh, trees aren't usually the sole determining factor for an EF4 rating. You would need some sort of structure to verify that. I don't really look at the DAT that often, so I didn't see the DAT message on the Marion, Illinois tornado. Oh, an emergency. Let me read this. Newer to storm chasing. I was on some of the biggest storms this year. I'm shocked by a lot of chasers' behavior, absolute insanity. Unfortunately, the behavior of some of the biggest YouTubers are wild. Yeah, um, I mean, storm chasing. Obviously, it's like, especially when like something's about to happen or there's, you're late to a setup or something. Reckless driving is definitely something that has kind of existed around storm chasing for some time. It's not a new problem by any means. I mean, there's incidents that have dated back a number of years. I mean, heck, remember the? I mean, they covered it in the Storm Chasers show where they had Sean and the Tiv there blowing past double yellow line. So it's not like this is anything new. I think the problem is just kind of more exacerbated as there is like more people chasing nowadays, particularly since 2020 and kind of the COVID explosion. Um, I mean, it's like hard for me to say because like I really started picking up my chasing around then too. I started chasing in 2016, um, but it was much more local at the time. Um, but yeah, no, it's you definitely have to be like kind of a defensive driver while out chasing. That is for sure, and I don't think that's anything that's new to chasing really. But it's just kind of it might be just a little bit more prevalent, just with the number of people on the road, and that's why I try to chase like in areas that have greater road networks or try to pick secondary targets if possible. Avoid the convergence. Oh, thank you for the super chat. Um, that's almost like a French day. Grenadine. Grenadine's day. Des. Grenadine's des. I don't know. English, French. Why was London so deadly? I think the primary, just kind of local vulnerability, and just kind of wrong place, wrong time, nocturnal timing as well, probably contributing factor for sure. Reminded me a lot of like kind of Cookville in 2020, like that kind of I don't want to say similar circumstances because I think it had much more lead time, if I'm recalling correctly, than Cookville had. Obviously, Cookville had almost like very little warning time, whereas London, I think, had much longer lead time. Or maybe it didn't. I don't. I know there's might be some contra. I haven't fully caught up on details. I've been kind of my head's been in a lot of different places. Uh, but yeah, it's like, I think nocturnal plays a factor, and kind of local vulnerabilities also definitely play a role. Angular momentum definitely plays a part in the violence. Yeah, I think particularly during tornado occlusions, we can see a much more violent, kind of tornadic vortex. It's just that often at that same time your diameter is shrinking, so oftentimes you're not hitting anything. But you can look at like Greenfield, for example, where during its occlusion, it having a much tighter core. Greensburg was kind of during that occlusion phase where it kind of decreased in diameter. Granted, still wide enough to engulf the whole town, but you're still kind of wrapping up that energy that's still spinning. And there's a number of tornadoes that you can look at. Grinnell, obviously now too, with and I think of tornadoes too, like if you want to go back. Granted, you don't have the damage on the ground to verify it, but like Manchester, kind of that rope out process that really just kind of you're stretching that vorticity to the point where you're getting the ballerina effect, the conservation of angular momentum. Granted, conservation of angular momentum, it's not a perfect conservation. Obviously, there's a lot of you have friction effects. You're dealing with compressible fluids, so it's like it's not a perfect apples to apples thing, but like the overall idea still applies. You just can't apply the direct equation because there's obviously other forces that are still at play. Oish with the super chat. Thank you, man. Friend of the channel, or a longtime supporter of the channel as well. Shifty with the super chat. Thank you. The existence of tornadoes is still mind-boggling to me. My city in Switzerland. Oh, we got a Swiss in the chat. Had a water spout in 1905, and it's still talked about in our schools. Meanwhile, in the U.S., tornadoes everywhere. Yeah, in Switzerland, it's like so much of the country is dominated by mountainous terrain. I wonder if that water spout was almost terrain induced. Depending, I don't know exactly where you're at, but that's a fun thing to think about. Terrain influence on tornadoes is super fascinating to me, and an area of study that I would be super interested in going into more if I was in a more academic setting. That would be kind of an area that I think would be really fun to really dive into in terms of studying tornadoes and stuff like that. Water break. Oh, Grenadine's also elaborating on their super chat question. Could it also be construction quality of homes? Of course. Nowadays, that's something that always has to be considered. Construction quality is always going to be kind of in question. Besides a state like Florida, where their home building codes are so much more stringent based on the aftermath of Andrew, which has been a video topic that I've wanted to do for some time now, like talking about Hurricane Andrew. Maybe I'll save it for hurricane season. That'll be a fun video to dive into kind of the engineering aspect, because I think that's one of the greatest examples of a weather event where like lessons were actually kind of drawn upon in terms of like construction. Possibly the greatest, at least in the States. Ethan, if you could go back and upgrade any EF3 to EF4, which one would it be? I don't know. It's a lot of. I mean, the case could be made for Matador. Matador could have the case for being upgraded to EF4. Additionally, as well, like depending on, I guess, how you like, if you pair like a structure with some of the mesquite tree damage, you could, I think the case could be made that it could be upgraded to EF4. And I think is probably deserving of EF4. if there was a resurvey done of it. And then just because of personal bias, if you had the June 1st tornado in the mix, and maybe some tree damage coupled alongside some of the houses hit in Munson. Granted, I don't know if any of those would really meet like that 170 criteria for like completely swept. I'd have to look into it a little bit more, but that's just personal bias, I think, coming out at that point. Drill bits be angry. Well said, Josh. Drill bits do be angry. Catching up a bit, scrolling down. Another Josh in the chat said, as a Tennessean, I've been to Cookeville many times and appreciate the video you made. I also use Cookeville as an example that even your minimal risk is minimal, it's still a risk. Yeah, definitely. I mean, Cookeville falling out even outside of that 2% risk that was set up for that day, but that storm just went on to be so prolific. Sometimes there's just minute details that even, some of our highest resolution cams aren't going to pick up on. Though I do think the Cookeville day, the HER was bullish, and I think it did have that sell on a number of runs kind of persisting into Central Tennessee. I might be misremembering that, though. It's been a number of years, because honestly I don't remember looking at that event the day of in high detail. The day of, at least. I was still in the thick of school, my junior year of engineering school at the time. Wow, that's 5 years ago. More than 5 years ago, obviously now. Wow. Time flies, man. Kevin the Bird, Springfield was likely at EF4 intensity near Broomfield. Yeah, it definitely was. It was that. I mean, it was like a half mile wide at that point. You looked at some of the footage. It's like almost had some of those 427 looks to it in terms of the super outbreak, with some of the like vortices coming off of the thing. It's just a matter of what it hit, right? So there's no doubt in my mind it reached EF4 intensity at some point. It's just kind of the lack of structures in the path, and thankfully, honestly, that more damage or more structure, like that the track happened where it happened. Obviously, there were still fatalities and injuries, but if like that was if that whole setup was shifted however many miles to the west, and you had peak intensification take place over the Connecticut River into downtown Springfield, we could be looking at a much more mass casualty type situation. So in some ways, maybe it's good, but maybe it doesn't intensify as much if you don't get that vorticity stretching over kind of the Wilbraham mountain range, the mountains that run through Wilbraham into Munson. Something to think about, I guess. Matthias or Matthias, depending on origin, I guess. Well, I guess Matthias would be Mattias. How does Matthias Ekholm spell his name? I'm using hockey players to try to figure out name pronunciations. We do a video on the 2000 super outbreak like you did on the 1974. It's funny, actually. There's a specific tornado that I'm going to do a video on for the 2011 super outbreak in the relative near future. I just haven't gotten around to it yet, so hopefully soon. Evan with the super chat. Thank you. Michigan usually gets 16 tornadoes per year, and we are 27 this year so far. There's a number of states that have actually overperformed this year. I saw a stat from Zachary Hall, who runs, I think, that Arkansas weather page on Facebook, who said that I think Arkansas already exceeded their yearly average. I think that outbreak in Michigan really boosted up the numbers, right? There was another video that I thought about doing is that big outbreak throughout the mitten in the 50s. I don't think that outbreak's been talked about a lot. That'd be a fun video to do. Might be difficult. I'm gonna have to really do some digging to try to find information on it, but hey, it is not Smithville. Oh, okay. This is a fun Oish again. Oh, in Danish I say Matthias, but in English most normal people hear Matthias. If you wanted to know. Okay, so I'm glad I said Matthias. Like I was like I knew I've seen that spelling pronounced that way before. So, um, if we're talking about yeah, Bridge Creek Moor would probably be an EF5 still today. I started answering. Follow up question: if you could downgrade any EF4 to EF3, I don't know. Yeah, there's definitely some of the recent EF4s have definitely I think been overrated. I don't know if I would bump them down to EF3 though off the bat. Emmanuel super chat, thank you. Indiana's at 53. There's been a number of there's been a number of outbreaks with kind of to point to. Yeah, that's crazy. Indiana has had a number of like potent outbreaks now at this point this year. I have a couple friends here in Hoboken that are from Indiana. So they've been asking me a lot of questions about that. It's kind of funny. Jarhead with the super chat. Thank you. And if you're I presume you're a Marine. If your name's Jarhead. So if so, Semper Fi. Thank you for your service. What are your thoughts on F5 tornadoes that would have been downgraded in the modern EF scale world? Ooh, good question. Oh, geez. That's tough. That's tough. I'm like going through the Rolodex of F5s in my brain. There's probably several that probably could be that'd probably be more in line with EF4 today. There's not one that's like jumping out immediately in my head though, and that's just probably because of the fact their documentation isn't as widespread. I realize I'm sitting rather seductively right now. Sorry. I'd have to think about that. There's none that immediately like jump like as like bulletproof case, but if I like really start diving into some of them, if I was sitting at the computer, maybe I would pull up Tornado Archive and start diving through them. I would like some people are really good about remembering like specific details of tornadoes, and I'm good at like remembering dates, but not necessarily like specific like damage indicators and stuff like that with specific tornadoes. I thought of Vicksburg or Oakfield. Okay, I mean, I could see where the argument could be made, especially if you're kind of looking specifically at the EF4 contexts. Valley Mills, EF3. Seems like tornadoes are trending eastward and are getting ever closer, more into the Ohio Valley, even Appalachians themselves a bit. I'm in West Virginia, and it feels like a lot are getting closer to me. I think it's kind of like it depends like on a year basis because I feel like the Midwest has had a couple of years that it's like kind of slacked. Um, but at the same time, too, I think what's happening too, which I don't know, like if there's been serious studies that have been looked into this, but I know like obviously like the Tornado Alley shifting east narrative has been a thing, and obviously I did a video on it where I kind of leaned into that a little bit. But I think also too you have to take into account the fact that more tornadoes are being observed now further east than one. Like it's a lot easier to observe tornadoes out west just because of the fact you're physically able to see them, and a lot more people are able to report them. Where now, oh, before like widespread radar and stuff like that, you would have tornadoes, specifically like high resolution radar, where you would have tornadoes that happened in like densely wooded areas, like a lot of like EF1s or like that, kind of lower rated tornadoes. that would go previously unnoticed just because they happen in the middle of the woods. And no, it's like if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's around to hear it, did it happen kind of thing? It's like the same idea with a tornado, I guess. So I wonder if that's kind of bolstering the narrative too, statistically, where it's kind of shifting the focus east when tornadic activity in the eastern half of the United States has kind of been more of a thing, has always been kind of a thing, and it's not something that's localized to the plains. Was Rochelle overrated in your opinion? I don't believe Rochelle was like a week's tornado by any means, but I think its actual rating of 200 miles per hour is definitely an overestimate. It probably falls more into like the 175 into like 180 camp, maybe 185. Because I think like that neighborhood that got like really hit hard, that had those 200 mile per hour ratings, those are a lot of wooden subfloor systems. So I've kind of changed my narrative a little bit from what I had said in the Rochelle damage analysis video that I did. That might need another video at some point in time. Maybe I'll just do something for the second channel for it. I don't know, something to think about. But I think it probably 200 mile per hour rating, in just kind of looking at purely in the context of the EF scale, is probably an overestimate. Thoughts on the Greensburg tornado emergency from the other day? I saw you praying for it not to occlude to the north. Yeah, I mean, it was just like kind of like I had jokingly sent in a group chat earlier in the day because of the tornado near Arnett. I was like, wow, this is kind of giving me the same Greensburg vibes where you had tornadoes in western Oklahoma, and then you would translate into kind of the nocturnal event. Like it just had the same things kind of lining up. And then sure enough, Greensburg took shape again, which is freaky, especially since I was in Greensburg like a couple weeks ago. And we'll probably be back out there again when I leave on Saturday. But yeah, it's I didn't want it to occlude north into Greensburg again. That would have just been way too many coincidences. Would it have been the same intensity as the Greensburg EF5 of 2007? I don't know. But almost seeing a very similar situation unfold would have been surreal to see. And I know instantly ratings would have instantly been on the forefront of everyone's mind, and it would have drawn attention away from the people impacted, which obviously I would have hated to see. Connor in the chat, we're never going to say it, but we're going to say it right now. This is May 4th all over again. They did, on KSN, they apparently word for word said, this is May 2007 all over again. They literally, I think they said that in the on air. Like, I was like, this is a crazy time to be memeing right now. What's an EF5 in your opinion needs, and that should get a wind speed upgrade? For me personally, Parkersburg. Oh, this is another interesting question. Actually, I'll get to your question, Owish. But do you think there's a correlation between roar and tornado intensity? I think the biggest thing that factors into a tornado's roar is what it's hitting. I've heard someone else say this, but there's a distinct difference between a tornado in the plains versus a tornado like in Dixie Alley, for example, when it's hitting like trees and stuff. And I've heard, like, I've been near tornadoes in the Northeast that necessarily weren't that strong, but it still had an audible sound, probably because of the fact that it was like impacting a bunch of trees. And I thought that was super interesting. Like maybe all those tree leaves and stuff moving kind of gives it that more waterfall effect, but there's probably something to it for sure. And as to the Parkersburg question, I don't know if Parkersburg necessarily needs like a full blown like upgrade. Do I think Parkersburg earned its EF5 status? I do believe Parkersburg is earned its EF5 status. Would it have earned an EF5 today with how things have trended? I don't know. It's tough to say. But with some of the things that happened with Parkersburg, I feel like, I don't know. It's hard to say. Any plans on doing a video on the 1953 Worcester tornado? Yes, at some point. It's on my short list just because of the fact it is a Massachusetts tornado and I'm biased. This is a crazy question. If you could choose to perish in any tornado, which would it be? None of them, frankly. Yeah, no. What do I think about the Dom 3 incident yesterday? I wouldn't have wanted to be in that. That would have been a little freaky. I feel like also like it would have been crazy to experience, but I don't think I would want to experience it again. I'll put it that way. Chapman 2016 was stated by The Office. Yeah, Chapman was a beast. That was a beastly tornado. Parkersburg would be EF4 195. I don't know. Maybe. I wish there was a little bit more documentation on Parkersburg. Just say that with any definitive. Trousdale. I do believe Trousdale overall was the stronger tornado over Greenfield. Or Greensburg, sorry. I gotta drink water. Ryanair. That's a fun name. I've taken one Ryanair flight in my life. And it landed fine, so. Actually, no, I've taken 2 Ryanair flights. No, 1, wait. Dublin to, no, 2 Ryanair flights, 2 Ryanair flights. Dublin to Gatwick, then Stansted to Cork. Okay. Anyway, a good day right now. Good day right now. DAOs are being used for a better research tornadoes or speed width. How trustworthy do you think their info is and better damage paths? Thanks. I mean, DAOs are probably the closest thing we've got to like, like that's like the closest we can get to like ground observations of tornadoes, I think, like consistently. Yeah, you can do like probe deployments and stuff like that. Like I know there's that kind of thing, but I don't know if you could really rely on the instrumentation to a point where I feel like some of the radar, like I think photogrammetry is definitely like a future that could be with the amount of HD footage or like 4K footage that's being shot of tornadoes nowadays. And if you can really sync and get the perfect angles and everything of different tornado footage, you can really start getting some really interesting estimates that way just by debris moving. Photogrammetry, I think, is something that should be explored more. June 1st, 2011 video when JK, I know you're waiting. Yeah, that one's going to be like a proper, like almost full documentary video at some point. I saw a question that I liked. Oh, Ryan CWX. If you could chase with any person, past or present, who would it be? Tim Samaras would be an obvious answer. Like, I dedicated my 8th grade wind turbine project to Tim Samaras because I was, I was in 8th grade when El Reno happened, and it was my end of year science project, and I dedicated my wind turbine project that I built to Tim Samaras. Given the influence that he had in my life and the fact that I was kind of like leaning towards doing engineering when I was getting into high school. Fujita would have been real. I know he wasn't like a chaser, but it would have been really cool to have been like to give Fujita the opportunity to see a tornado up close. I know he had that tornado in Colorado when he was doing the microbursts observation studies that he was doing. Catching up. This chat went busy. Oh, that reminds me. Have you seen the footage from the Otis project? Yes, I have. Um, it's funny because it's like, um, it's really cool to see, but I also have like a little bit of jealousy involved just because of the fact that I used to do, like, I was doing research with UAVs back in, like, starting in 2019, like before the Otis project. And I wish I still had the fun, like, I still had funding involved to have further those projects. And that's something I still want to do again, but there's so much on my plate right now with like kind of continuing the channel. I would have to have some sort of big names. I would have to have like some like serious sponsorship in order to make it happen without some sort of grant or anything like that, to do it the way that would be properly done. But yeah, go to the June 1st website if you want to look at some of the UAV stuff that really was the origin of June 1st. Thoughts on the broils being in Trey's video? Question from Parker. It's a great thing. And it was funny. I was talking with some of the other WX creators after that, and I was like, you know what? Like, why haven't I done a video with Tim Marshall? Why don't I do a damage analysis video with Tim Marshall? That would be an interesting thing. And I know he would totally. Yeah, he would. I know he would be into it too. In the few interactions that I've had with Tim, I've wanted to do a sit down with him for some time. Maybe that's what I got to do. He's working on the big hail study that's going on right now, and maybe I'll reach out to him. I'll message him on Facebook and see if he would be interested in kind of doing some sort of sit down or something with me. Maybe I'll meet with him in the plane if we have an off day. Maybe I'll reach out to him. I'll shoot him a message and see if he'd be interested in doing like a 40-minute interview or podcast episode or something. That would be fun. How long have we been going for? I haven't even, it's probably like an hour or so, right? My voice is like kind of getting shot. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get another, I don't know if I'll be able to get another hour of me. I wanted to do this live stream today because I'm going to be honest. I was talking about it a little bit earlier, just to kind of go on a little bit of a tangent. But if I keep itching my arms, I have eczema on the inside of my elbows, and it's annoying. But how do I do this where it sounds like I'm not like complaining? Question from friend of the channel, JM. Ethan, would you chase with Sean Waugh? I believe that's how you say his name. Yes, I would be. Some of the stuff he's doing with the hail is really cool. The big, I saw him out there in the field actually the other day with his hail truck, and they had these huge studio lights for the slow-mo cameras that they were shooting with. I mean, it was like illuminating like a whole field. It was crazy to see in person. Roy Munson watching from Ireland. Hello, I'm Irish descendant, so that's cool to see. I love to get back to Ireland soon. I loved my time out there when last time I was out there was 2019. It was my first time and only time out there, but I'm gonna kind of go on a little bit of a tangent. Oh, were you frustrated at people who are making conspiracy theories around Helene? Yeah, of course. I mean, and nowadays it's just going to be a thing just because it's like any of those big weather events are going to be politicized, unfortunately, and it's just a reality of the world that we live in right now. But yeah, it's not fun. what I was saying earlier is I've kind of had an interesting week. I was talking about this at the beginning of the stream, but it's kind of stemming into a much larger thing. Um, I've been kind of, I don't want to say that I've been burnt out, but I might be starting to experience some symptoms of burnout, maybe. This is turning into like couch therapy time, but I figured I'd talk about it just to kind of get it off my chest, and maybe there's some words of wisdom that can be said out there. But um, I have a problem of setting the bar too high for myself too early. It's good to be ambitious, but sometimes I look too far ahead without kind of setting smaller milestones ahead of it. And yeah, I think just the stress of like managing your own business as like a sole member LLC or whatever, and like having to worry about like, I don't know, like stupid things like quarterly taxes and like managing budgets and like all these unglamorous side, like the things that like that are besides making videos, and kind of like the stress of like having like a fluctuating income and wanting to grow the brand but also like grow my own like personal finance goals as well. Like I feel like I'm at a point where it's like I'm paying my bills and stuff, which is great. Blessed to be able to have the opportunity to do that. But at the same time too, it's like I also want to like continually grow. And I'm not at a point where I'm like continually growing at a rate that I've felt comfortable with. Um and maybe it's just like because of the fact there's only so much I can do as one person. Um so I don't know. I've been kind of thinking about that a lot lately, and it's been kind of weighing on me a lot. I was like trying to start some the next project that I'm working on, and I was just kind of like having a hard time getting started. Like I was kind of procrastinating a bit, and I think it was just kind of like almost like kind of like a symptom of burnout, where it's like I'm not finding like, I think this next couple of weeks of chasing will really help to like really advance moving forward. But I don't know. It's just like some of these kind of other little things around, kind of doing this thing full time. Um, Whoa, hold up. Something just happened. I see the chat like exploding with notifications. Oh my gosh, Evan. Thank you so much. Evan, thank you. That's incredibly generous of you to gift those memberships out for those people, for members of the chat. Wow. Um that's incredible. Thank you. I really appreciate it. That's really nice of you. Um but I guess just to kind of I guess conclude what I was talking about. Uh so there's like kind of like the variable financial side of things, which is like I said, like it's not like those things are like okay, whatever. There's just like it's just like little things like that where um because eventually like I want to have the opportunity to afford a house and stuff like that down the road, and um like other like just like personal financial goals that you want to hit, and be able to build the company at the same time too. It's just like the stress of like kind of like trying to navigate that and like be your own boss and like manage the finances of the company, of the little company. Not that it's like I'm pushing big numbers around by any means. It's like but being able to get to this point where the business is kind of sustained without kind of like that constant pressure. I mean, there's always going to be some level of pressure, but like kind of like This could just be the fact of me looking too far ahead and not kind of being more present in the moment. This is getting really therapeutic, I think. But then there's also the aspect too where it's like, back when I was at a traditional engineering job, I was you're working in a very collaborative environment, and nowadays it's like, I mean, I've been doing this for 9 months now, full time, and there's days where it's like I won't speak to, like, during the course of my working day, I won't say a single word unless if I'm like making or like doing the narration for a video or something, and it can be really isolating, kind of just working on a project by yourself, and not be able to share the highs and lows with someone else is like, it's really weird. And it's not something that I've ever experienced before, I guess. So it's just, I don't know. It's just, there's just aspects that you don't really think about getting into this. Because obviously, like, the making of content and stuff like that's the part that I want to do. And that's, doing some really cool, like, engineering based projects and stuff. That's the stuff that I want to do with June 1st. But there's just so much around it that's, it's tough sometimes. And, I think this week in particular, I was kind of struggling with it, and that's why I wanted to do a stream, just to kind of talk about it a little bit and kind of get my mind off it. So I thank everyone for those that have done super chats or memberships or whatever. It means the world to me that there's people out there that that are supporting that are supporting this, and believe in it, and it means the world to me. And it's like kind of, I believe in myself, but it's nice to have a little bit of other outside support just to affirm that I can do what I long to do. I just saw Parker ask, do you not have an editor? No, I do everything myself, like writing, editing, all that. Like, everything on the channel is 100% through me. Even like the merch that I design is like hand drawn by me. I could probably do an editor or something like that, but I actually like the editing process. Like, I really flush out the story, because sometimes I'll record like 25 minutes of narration, and it's through the editing process that I find what details are important and what details aren't important, if that makes sense. So it's that kind of stuff, So, hopefully that was not too much of like a Debbie Downer rant, but I just kind of wanted to kind of give a little bit of a context in terms of how things go, For what it's worth, I love the marriage of technical focus and compelling narrative that guys like Moriarty and Weatherbox bring to the table. Yeah, Steve over at Weatherbox does some great stuff. Oh, Adam, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. A Discord can create a sense of community, but is more work. There is a Discord, Chilled Sky. It should be in the description. There's an invite in the description. If Connor's in the chat right now, if he could, Connor, if you're still kicking around, please throw a pinned message with the Discord, a Discord invite link. I know you have moderator privileges, so you can do that to put that. Ethan, what are your opinions on the debate between Tor E and PDS, especially after the London tornado? It's actually an interesting thing, and maybe this is a controversial opinion, but on that subject, there's a good chunk of people in the United States that don't know the difference between a tornado watch and a warning, never mind a PDS warning or a tornado emergency. So a lot of those words and buzzwords are like they mean the same thing to a lot of people. Most people that aren't like involved in weather on a day-to-day basis. So I don't know if it makes that much of a difference. Obviously, there's going to be people that do understand like tornado emergency is going to sound a lot more pressing than tornado warning. But at the same time too, I bet there's a large percentage of people that don't fully grasp the difference between what a tornado emergency versus a PDS warning versus a warning versus even a watch. So that's something that I think still needs to be communicated strongly, the difference between like tornado watch and tornado warning and tornado emergency. Oh, thank you, Connor, for the Discord invite link. That's perfect. Yeah, the taco watch and taco warning. It's so frustrating talking to people in my area and say we don't get tornadoes here, that usually older people, but younger people still know like nothing. Yeah, and that's also like a regional thing as well. I mean, you think of like the common tornado myths of like tornadoes don't cross rivers or don't go over mountains, and it's like all of us in here in the chat know that that's very much a possibility. Or tornadoes don't hit cities. June 1st, 2011 is an example of all of those things happening. So, yeah, NOAA weather radios are something that the cookie analogy, cookie watch, cookie warning. Geez, guys, my voice is like really taking a beating here. Should have made some throat coat tea. I've done that before for streams, and that usually helps. Yeah, this bit rate on the left, I'm not gonna have to. I didn't feel like moving the couch into the studio again, so I just literally am doing this from my laptop right now. So the next time I'll bring the couch back into the other room. Emily said, "Thank you. I really wish there was a better communication of watches versus warnings plus stuff when we see is common bare bones knowledge." Yeah, there's so much when it comes to the world of weather that I think a lot of people in the weather space take for granted in terms of like thinking it's common knowledge. And that's something that I fall into all the time. I have to like think back sometimes, like when I'm explaining things in videos, like weather setups and stuff, and like kind of like explaining things to a point where it's not like I don't want to say that I'm explaining it to like a 5-year-old, but like breaking things down enough where it's like you can visually see what's going on, and you can follow it from a very high level that you don't need a weather background to see, but yet the people that do know weather can also understand what's going on. It's like finding that balance is really hard sometimes, and that's where like I'll have to record a lot of things during a video and then find the perfect blend of it in the edit to really get the yeah. What moment in the WX community made you the most frustrated besides the whole there I did have an opinion. There was something that there was something that I did have a strong opinion on at one point in time that clearly it's not jumping to my head, so clearly it's not that strong of an opinion if I can't think of it instantly, but shoot, what was it? I did have like kind of a strong opinion about some things. I guess maybe like kind of ego and hubris in the weather community. Like people kind of thinking of themselves or like allegiance to certain people at sometimes, like kind of like the tribalism that takes place sometimes. Particularly in like I guess the maybe the streaming space and stuff like that. But like there's like so much ego and hubris when in the end of the day it's like there's no need to be on a high horse. Like we're just talking about weather at the end of the day. And like it's like like some people really let the streaming numbers or whatever go to their heads, I guess. Maybe I'm not trying to like call people out or anything specifically, but it's just like I've seen a lot of instances of it, and I try to keep my like now that like even what I'm about to say sounds like ego driven, but it's like I have a relatively decent sized following now in the weather space here on YouTube. And it's like, I'm very mindful of the fact that I can't let that influence or let like the numbers that I see behind my videos and stuff influence how I behave online and behave as if my opinion weighs more than someone else's just because of the fact there's more people watching me than someone else.
Like that's something that I think about a lot, and I really try to ground myself as much as humanly possible, maybe even to a fault at times, in order to like, you know, really make sure that I'm not like overstepping boundaries or anything like that. Yeah, hubris is something that I think a lot of people could temper. But I imagine that happens in any sort of community, like the weather community. If you build a following, inevitably it's gonna build to that. And of course, there's also going to be a little bit of tribalism as well, um, amongst people that are fans of people, which is fine. I mean, yeah, I mean, support the people you want to support. I'm not criticizing anyone for doing what they love or building an audience what they love. But there's sometimes um, it can be negative at times. Um, it's definitely a problem. And yeah, in the professional and academic world as well. Like I'm just talking about it in like a YouTube aspect because that's just kind of the ecosphere that I'm working in right now. But I for sure saw it in academia when I was still doing student research. You know, kind of that elitism of like, and honestly, it was that in academia that kept me from going that route. Granted, there was like also like you know, kind of like I didn't want to go into more student loan debt if I didn't have to, kind of thing too from going into grad school. But like the elitism and the strong hubris and egos in academia, I think is some of the most cancerous of all communities. And that was something that really swayed me from going like a grad school route because I would have loved to have done like a PhD research project. I would have loved to have, you know, to have dove into a research topic so intently to dedicate years to my life to, you know, flushing out a thesis. But like I knew that like if, you know, God forbid if I got the wrong advisor or something like that would have just like made it beyond miserable for me. So something just, you know, that's kind of maybe that's something that have you had the chance to meet Cameron Nixon? Not only have I had the chance to meet Cameron Nixon, I would consider Cameron one of my good friends in the weather community. We talk on a fairly frequent basis when we can, but anytime I see him out chasing, oh, there's always a big embrace involved. I love Cameron Nixon, and the work that he's doing in meteorology, I think, is some of the most important that's happening nowadays. Particularly with like you know, some of the uh, nudger and merger theories that he's working on. So yeah, um, yeah, I'm a big Cameron Nixon guy, and he's someone that I think I keep saying this. I wanted to do like revive the podcast and stuff, but I like I'm not the biggest fan of doing podcasts over like Zoom and stuff like that. It's like hard because like sometimes you're like talking over each other and stuff like that. So maybe you'll just do like if there's some down days out in the plains, I might just find a couple people to do some podcasts with. I'll bring a couple microphones with me again, and we'll talk storms and stuff like that. Do I watch Weather Brains? Yeah, on occasion. I don't watch it regularly, but I've watched it. I've watched a number of episodes, particularly of like, you know, some of my friends are involved or getting interviewed in episodes. So and there's if there's any ideas that pop up, then do you want to do or I want to do research, but I don't know if I'm a good enough student to bring an aero major. Doesn't make you really like a good pick. No, I think an engineering background would make you a more desirable candidate, or make you an interesting candidate that provides a different lens to look at things with. That was my thought too. Is I thought about doing, you know, going into an atmospheric science / meteorology graduate program from engineering. Um, Alex, I don't want to say his last name wrong. Alex Sluth. I know he Sewith. He had a mechanical engineering background and then went did his PhD in atmospheric science / meteorology. I think from at Texas Tech. Oh God, I wish I pronounced his name. I hope I pronounced his name. I butchered it. I know I butchered it, but he's a guy that I talked to a little bit about kind of that
going from engineering into a meteorology research type role. I'm trying to read off the laptop. I'm a little far away. My eyes are good, but my font's like really small on the OBS. How long have we been going here? I don't. Oh, we've been going for 90 minutes. Okay, that's not too bad. I might wrap it up in like maybe 10, 15 minutes or so. Just because like my voice is like really starting to fade and I want to eat dinner. So I'm on my own for dinner tonight, so I might make some mac and cheese, maybe even buffalo mac and cheese just to soothe my ailing throat. But I'm excited to get out chasing. Some of these mesoscale days coming up could be boom or bust. I wish I could get out for Saturday, but I think Sunday and Monday still have some potential to do something interesting. I would love to go out to Tech. Yeah, Texas Tech has their wind, the whole wind institute that they have there, and Texas Tech is also a large party school. This is a funny story. So my brother and I had an off day in Lubbock in 2022. So we were just walking around the Texas Tech campus for the day, just kind of like checking things out, just to kind of see what it was all about. And this is it after like graduations and stuff. But this car rolled up to us, and a bunch of kids were like, "Hey, do you want to take a shot?" And we were like, "Wait, what?" And they were just like, the kids in the car. I hope the driver wasn't drinking, but they had bottles of tequila, and they gave us shots of tequila, just straight on the sidewalk outside of one of the school buildings on the Texas Tech campus. And I knew it had somewhat of a party school reputation, like kind of like outside of like the meteorology context. Like obviously the meteorology and wind institute schools there are like very well established. But just like the greater schools had like a party school architecture, or image, I should say. And yeah, we got a couple of tequila shots from strangers and that were rolling around campus. So that was a very funny experience. If Connor's still in chat, he can attest to it. It was funny. It was funny. I almost made Connor start recording to record it to put it in the To Hunt a Storm episode. That was the first year of doing To Hunt a Storm. And I decided against it in the split moment because I didn't want to get any kids in trouble or anything like that. Connor can confirm it was it was the most random thing ever, but I don't know, like it was on a college campus, so it wasn't like a red like I probably would have felt differently if I was like by myself and I was like and if I was female, like that would feel very like that would probably be. See, in that context, that probably could be like a such worse like situation. Like, last thing you would want is to be like drugged or anything. So, but like I had Connor with me, so in that sense, it's like I was like, yeah, why not? It's kind of random. It was funny. I'm gonna wrap things up here in probably the next couple of minutes. So last questions. Love to hear them. Evan with another super chat. Dude, thanks. I'm wanting to start storm chasing here in 4 years after I get out of the Coast Guard. What are some of the things you recommend buying besides obviously radar, LOL? I want to make my own content one day. Okay, Evan. I would say the main thing is more kind of between the ears, as they would say, like kind of philosophical. Um, I would say the main thing, I would say just kind of like overall tips, know how to make repairs to your car in the field if you have to, like how to plug a tire. You're in the Coast Guard, so I presume you have you have the ability to acquire skills like that. Know your way around an engine, just to like be able to diagnose things in the field quick. Like if God forbid if anything went wrong to your car, knowing how to like kind of do repairs in the field and stuff like that, having like a toolkit and like that kind of thing, like being able to be self-sufficient is the kind of the biggest thing that I think you can kind of learn or kind of prepare around. That's something that I kind of pride myself in, and like I know the ins and outs of my little cross trek very well. And I picked the cross trek specifically because I like the idea of having a manual transmission. I don't like CVT transmissions. Um, and I know, and the workability of that Subaru engine, besides the spark plugs, is very easy. So I've done all the maintenance on my Subaru myself. So it's that type of thing, being able to know your car. Yeah, those types of things. Um, Anything else that I can think? Like camera stuff, like phone cameras are really good nowadays. You can get away with using a phone to start. But I would say that if you can have like two separate devices, one so you have like a constant stream of information, and then another that you can use as like a camera, that would be ideal. Like say if you have like an iPad or whatever, like you can use that for radar or whatever. And then like you can use your phone to shoot video at the same time. Like you don't need the big crazy camera for that. And then I would say just make sure you're when you're first getting into it, make sure you're educated. This is a plug for Chaser Academy, Storm Chaser Academy, who I'm one of the coaches with, founded by like Trey over at Convective Chronicles, Carly with obviously Carliana, and Gabe Harbor of Chaser Chat. Those people have put together the Chaser Academy. I'm working with them. We're putting some really cool. I'm doing chase and explain content with them and stuff. The people that are putting stuff into that project are really knowledgeable. So I'm gonna say that there's some really cool stuff going on over there. That's going to be some really cool content coming out over that way. So hopefully that answers your question, Evan. And thank you again for the super chat. You've been really generous today. I like with the memberships that you've gifted out as well. Are Belgians a race? As in like, I don't know if that's like a inside thing or not. Or if that's supposed to be like, if it's a reference, I don't know. I don't know if that's a reference or not. Connor, engineering question. My brother asking, what did you use to make your drones in college? Airframe, controller, tools. So the ASMS UAV was actually pretty bare bones in terms of construction and airframe. It was like a foam core base with lightweight 3D printed material, ribbing, and carbon fiber spars and stuff like that. And then fiberglass on the outside and the exterior. Like it really wasn't anything super crazy. We tried a couple, yeah, like I tried like a couple of the lightweight PLA elements for some of the internal stuff that wasn't exposed to the weather. And then like carbon fiber wing spar and stuff like that. So that type of stuff. And then the fiberglassing, obviously, to kind of weatherproof the thing. I'm going to wrap up here in a couple minutes. So thanks, everyone, again. I'm just looking to see if there's any crazy fun questions. Did you see the tornado footage across Nicholas WX? Frequent flyer of the channel. Did you see the tornado footage for across northern Alabama? Yes, I did. Some wild stuff and some wild cycloids that I've seen too. Oh, Evan, sorry, your question. I meant like radar app. I'm currently using Radar Scope, Sat Squatch 2. Those two apps are the two apps that I primarily use out in the field. Though weather, I'm going to start dabbling with weather front on this next chase trip as I leave Saturday. So I'm going to start experimenting a bit and seeing what's going on. I think that's it for me. I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks everyone for joining. Thank you so much for the super chats and stuff today. This was awesome. And it was, I know I got a little bit like into like a therapy time session in the middle there, but hey, I kind of needed, I don't want to say trauma dump, but just kind of, get some stuff off my chest. Especially because of the fact that, I'm kind of doing a lot of this myself. So, it was nice to, be able just to talk a little bit candidly and kind of give you an inside look. And, it helps to kind of talk things through sometimes out loud. So thank you everyone for joining. And we'll talk to you soon. There'll be, okay, so here's the other thing. I guess as a terms of announcement, I guess. I haven't decided if I'm going to be streaming on the main channel, the chases on the channel, streaming chases on the main channel or the chasing channel. I've wanted to bolster the chasing channel a little bit more and eventually get that channel to the watch time requirement to monetize that channel. So I can start throwing up more chasing content dedicated on that channel. So we'll see. I'm still deciding whether or not to do chases on that channel or this channel, but we'll see. I'll think about it. Maybe I'll do a members post since there are a number of memberships given out to get your guys' opinions. Anyway, thank you so much for joining. We'll do another couch cast later this summer probably. I'll be back in the main office and we won't have any bitrate issues. I'll just stream off of the main computer again. So thanks guys. Have a good one. I'm going to make mac and cheese and rest my throat.